Like, I'm trying to think the last anime that I watched where they were older, which was probably Steins Gate.
Steins Gate, yeah, is a great one. No, I've definitely seen a lot more recent ones, but I can't remember the title of them. Like the one where the grandpa gets turned into a mech. That
Interesting. I don't think I've even. That sounds sweet. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Otaku Flavored Podcast, where we will be talking about all things otaku. I am Savage Bear TV, and my co-host over here is Jay Lewis.
how's it going, guys?
Yeah, so I don't know what you guys expect from this podcast, but expect, I guess, anime and anything. We really are going to go off the rails probably some of these times.
Yeah, we haven't really thought all that part through yet, other than, of course, anime and collectibles and possibly, oh man, yeah, we had so many like ideas that we have like semi-scripted, but
Yeah, of course, like it's one of those things where we'll have somewhat to talk about each time. We'll nail down a segment every time at the end of the podcast, which will be a kind of like a book club meeting or something like that, where we will tell you what we're going to be watching over the next week to talk about the week after. But
and yeah, no, the main idea that came behind this thing is that we just wanted to discuss things that we've been talking about this entire time that we haven't had a chance to like really talk to anybody else about.
yeah, it's kind of like we would just stay up forever at the end of Discord calls and just talk random nonsense for a really long time. We're like, why aren't we recording this? Like, we're pretty sure other people would like to hear our opinions and then they can throw in their own. So that's just kind of how this grew into becoming an actual thing.
So when we first got together with everything, I think you're about the only friend that I have that I've been talking to during this whole like pandemic time that watches anime with me or even talks about it, because our main friend group doesn't actually even watch anime for the most part, do they?
Yeah, definitely that friend group is not not very much into, and I don't think like any of them watch anime at all. So once I came in, yeah, I definitely gravitated towards hanging with Jay more, because it was like, hey, a fellow person who can talk about any of this weeb stuff that we have that we both like, that everyone's like, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, so for people who, I guess a lot of people aren't going to know who we are for the most part. Like, people will know you stream, I stream as well, I'm an art streamer. But for people that just want to get to know us, like how did we even meet? Like our friend group that we're talking about, they're not into anime. So how do we know each other?
Yeah, I basically ran into you because of Pokemon Go, of all things, which is kind of strange to think about, but yeah, one of our friends, Ed, and his wife saw me and my girlfriend playing Pokemon, and were like, hey, do you want to play Pokemon with us? Out of the blue, like on Twitter, even. It was so random. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then slowly started hanging out, going on just like, I don't know, Pokemon adventures, and then Jay would be there. After a while, we first probably met the most playing Magic, though.
Yeah, I think the Magic part came second, but the Pokemon thing, it's like, it's funny that we know everybody who just got into that giant hype of Pokemon. It just a huge group formed around that, but none of them that were otakus or nerds. And it was kind of one of those things of like, we all got together, we all started hanging out, and I didn't know some of the new people that kept coming around. So I was just like slowly gravitated to talking to you, especially when we started playing Magic. I was like, okay, you're the other like weeaboo nerd that I know.
Yeah.
Like, just to put it as bluntly as possible, because everybody else that we talked to, like, it was Magic. That was the only thing that brought us together, in Pokemon Go. And I was like, okay, I can actually talk about some other things with you that nobody else is picking up on.
Yeah, and then it's like, let alone did we like talk about just anime or things like that. Like, we both love Japanese culture and stuff like that. Like, Jay over here can speak more Japanese than I can by far.
No.
I can't. I literally can't. But yeah, it's
No, I can't
it's
either.
one of those things where slowly
let's
but
not trust
surely,
me.
yeah, we kind of like grew off of that, and it became more of a thing, and yeah, just kind of bonded over that, which was neat.
I'm waiting for the first person to call us out on how we did the title for this podcast. Like, if that's wrong, that's me, and that's how little I know of Japanese. So let's not pretend I actually know anything.
Yeah, good point. But I mean, definitely knows enough to try to put that on there, even though you probably did the same thing that I would have done, which is basically run whatever it was through Google Translate and just take that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very guilty of that. I was very much going to ask, like, I have two friends that speak fluent Japanese and have lived in Japan over their life. And I was like, I'm going to ask them before we start doing this. But much like everything else I've been doing for the past couple months, I was planning to do it and then only trying it as soon as I need it done.
Yeah. No, that's basically like my whole quarantine life is basically like, all right, so there's all this stuff. I have time to do all this stuff. I also don't want to do anything. So why do it now, basically?
Yeah, and of course, we can spend the time watching interesting good things when there is good things and it's not being canceled.
Yeah.
We can talk about some of those
Oh
series
God,
later. But
it's crazy to think of how many things like were supposed to come out at a certain time this year and then just ended up not because of one way or another. COVID happened. But
yeah, well, we can beat around it all we want, but
Yeah,
that's
a good
the
point.
obvious thing. That's why we're on webcams right now. Like we really plan to do this in person, and that's something that we're going to strive for. And I hope you guys get to see some really cool evolution of what we are planning to do. But for right now, this is our interaction of us awkwardly trying to communicate via the internet.
Yeah, I definitely in person, like talking about any of this stuff is going to be so much better in the end. I always feel, but yeah, we'll get by. I'm totally fine. I've lived my life on the internet for pretty much my whole life, so
I'm pretty new to doing stuff through the internet with people. Even during most of this time, I was not being social with anybody. And it was only in the last, I've been streaming now for 3 months almost on the 17th, which I don't know when this is coming out, but that's right around the corner.
yeah, that is true, actually. Yeah.
Super short amount of time.
That's not, yeah,
So,
I've been streaming for like probably 5 years now, 6 years. I can't remember my exact start date, but it was sometime in August. I just remember being like, all right, I can do this.
I straight up just put my wrote it on my whiteboard next to me so that way I'd be like, I'm so, August 7th or September 17th. I had to look up at it, but yeah, I was I'm a little bit lame. I put it up there and was all super stoked.
No, that's awesome. I really wish I could remember my beginning start date because it was so spontaneous for me. I remember I had a really terrible PC and I was like, all right, I want to upgrade my PC. I can't really stream. So I'm going to just stream Skyrim and hopefully I'll get popular enough that maybe people will like me, that they could start like pitching a little bit of money towards me getting a new computer to be able to make better content. And that didn't happen, so I got a job. But like it was one of those things where I was like, I need something where I can afford to get a new computer. So that's what first got me into streaming, weirdly enough, was like, all right, I can do this barely, but you know what? Let's hope that it's good enough that people will like it. But yeah, I don't know. Skyrim for me wasn't what I wanted to start in. I'm actually kind of glad that I'm now where I am, where I'm more doing variety content, and now we're kind of in the niche of horror. I don't know if you wanted to, yeah, you said earlier that you're
I really love all the horror stuff that you've been moving into. No, I came on with a plan when I started into Twitch. I was like, I'm going to be an art streamer and do all that stuff. And I still played Minecraft for my first second stream or something like that. I was just like, screw it. I need to learn how to stream because I didn't know how to do really any of that. And it's like, I've talked behind the camera. Some people, I'm going to be sending this out to a few people from my old channel, which was a podcast about a card game, Force of Will, back in the day. So maybe if you've come around from that, you're recognizing me from that, and I've done other stuff. But outside that, like all of this new streaming stuff is completely new to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like it's a strange skill that not a lot of people when a lot of people see like people streaming, they're like, oh, I could do that. Like it's fairly straightforward to do. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's the most difficult thing in the world, but actually being entertaining on stream, I think, is one of the more difficult things in the world to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm lucky my type of content is meant to be like chill, relaxed, and reserved, because there is so much downtime of me just scribbling with my head down, and I'm like, why are people watching me right now? You're all weird, but thank you.
Yeah, people love seeing people make art, which I feel like is one of the reasons I absolutely love anime, because I'm not an artist. So whenever I see like a different, like a scene, like a Ghibli movie or anything like that. Some of them, like some of those still frames are absolutely gorgeous, and I'm
Oh yeah.
completely blown away that someone drew this. Like they drew it maybe back in the day by hand even, which is even more insane to me. Like
That is a thing that I'm absolutely in love with. And one thing I really want to start a collection of at some point is collecting old cells and different drawings from old works. I watch a lot of Trigger streams that they do. And one of my things that like I remember typing frantically when they were just like throwing away Little Witch Academia just sells because they're like, oh, nobody wants these, and then like the rest of chat with me were like, we will pay shipping, hell, we'll actually pay you for these, and just like trying to be like, don't throw these away, we all want them, we don't care if they're just, some of them are scribbles, just send.
it's so crazy to think that when studios are done with that stuff, they're just like, let's
Just
get rid of it. We don't think people really care enough to want these things, but yeah. We definitely, I mean, I would also love to have an anime cell collection. We have a friend who maybe we'll bring on at some point, who is getting very, very much into collecting animation cells. So maybe it's a later podcast we can talk about that with them, because it's neat. Like,
oh yeah,
it's,
no, I wish I had them all.
yeah, right. Yeah. It's a crazy collector thing. I definitely, it's almost like collecting art, basically. I think it's the only type of art that I would collect. I wouldn't go collect like a Monet or like any of the other like crazy artists. If I was able to make any money, I would have animation cells on my walls.
Probably. I mean, the only thing that I have kicking around in my house is a ton of screen prints that I pick up whenever I go to conventions.
Yeah, that's neat too.
I don't even know what they are. Like these Pokeballs behind me were from the last convention I did before we all got unable to go outside again.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll Expo, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I really wish that Fanime was a thing this year, because we were getting ready to go and everything, and then COVID hit, and it was like, all right, well, I guess conventions are off. Like,
well, I will thank my wallet thanked me at the start of it all, because I wasn't buying as many anime figures. As you guys can see behind me, I'm for people who are watching the stream or watching us, I have so many figures, and this is just what I could pack behind me. I have stuff on the shelves on the side of me, downstairs. Just we don't talk about it.
Which is legit. I'm slowly getting in there. I don't know if you guys can see some of my new ones over on the side over here, but yeah, I'm getting deeper and deeper into collecting figures, and man, that's a dark rabbit hole to go down.
Oh yeah, it is.
Your wallet's like, what are you doing? Like, please stop. But I mean, sometimes I just can't. They're too beautiful. Like,
yeah, I used to work for I managed a comic shop back like 5 years ago now, and back then I got into the habit of collecting things, and that's where all the Nindoroids came from. Is I was just ordering them in, and the owner was like, "Oh man, these things are selling really well," and I was like, "Yeah, don't wonder that 50% of those are going to me probably." So I was pretty much the person buying them, and then stocking the rest and hoping they would sell.
That's so funny.
Feeding my own addictions.
You're like, this looks really good. I'm gonna buy that for myself and the store.
Well, after a bit of time, it did turn into where we had people coming to the store for manga, and we had people coming around for a ton of that stuff because they didn't want to have to drive all the way over the hill to San Francisco. And so we became a small mecca for a while for people who loved anime stuff, and I started to like collect people around me for that. But even still, it's one of those things where I've never had enough people around me who really appreciate and love and talk about anime. So yeah, I think I just really don't have many other friends to appreciate it with, and that's probably my own fault.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my core group of friends that, like, when I was a kid growing up, and we all bonded over anime in a lot of ways. Like, Cowboy Bebop was probably the anime that kind of solidified us all together, because we each picked characters. We've absolutely watched all of it together. I remember buying every DVD and then us all staying up like multiple nights in a row just watching it over and over again. Like, that was probably the first anime that I actually had a friend group with that we would talk about. That and Dragon Ball Z was also there, but Cowboy Bebop was probably the main one.
Dragon Ball.
Well, Toonami was the thing that got me like kind of in that realm. It wasn't like my first anime, but Toonami was like that consistent, like, okay, I'm gonna watch anime now because it's on, basically. Might as well go watch.
Okay, so that was the first thing that you really remember being like your anime that really fixated or fixed you to anime.
Yeah,
But
was
what did you start watching anime with?
my first ever anime was My Neighbor Totoro, which forever will
Oh,
be like instilled in my memory and everything. I love that series, and it's probably like I wish I could have what is in front of me behind me so you guys could see it, but I have like a shrine to Totoro basically, as I like to call it, because yeah, I grew up with it, and it was what I fell in love with. It got me into Ghibli and made me fall in love with it completely.
oh, that's really cool. I had nobody that would show me Ghibli stuff when I was a kid. I didn't experience Ghibli until I was in my late teens, I
Oh,
think.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, my growing up with it was for how I got into anime was Saturday morning cartoons. I would watch whatever was translated from for kids, you know. So I got to watch Card Capture Sakura and the other stuff that came on with all the American cartoons. And slowly, after a while, like I didn't even know that was necessarily anime for a long time until I started trying to like track down more episodes of like Dragon Ball Z and the different things I enjoyed as a kid, which I ended up watching mostly in Spanish because I couldn't find them
God,
or knew anybody who watched them.
yeah, now that you mentioned that, like, that's it's so weird because like Pokemon for me, I still see as a cartoon because growing up it was part
Yes.
of for kids, and you would be there watching every episode after like Animaniacs or whatever was on before it, basically, and then Pokemon would be on, and it's my brain still classifies it as a cartoon, but it's definitely that's up
Yeah.
there as probably one of the first like sequential animes I ever like started watching, like an actual series.
The first thing that I remember, because I like I said, I didn't have any Totoro stuff or Ghibli or anything like that. The first time that I remember seeing something that I was like, this is truly anime and I need to go find more things like it was when I first saw Fooly Cooly, which admittedly is what the early 2000s. So it took me a long time. Like all of the 90s, I was watching stuff and not knowing what it was. And then as soon as I hit, I think what that's like when I was like 12 or something like that, I was like, I need to go investigate all things anime now.
Yeah,
And
and just like become immersed with this.
oh yeah, I mean, I'm even rocking a Fully Cooley shirt today just in honor of like one of the first things I remember being
Hell yeah.
super into.
Yeah, it's
That
definitely
and Big O.
it's I don't know, it's really interesting. Well, Big O for me is one of
Yeah,
those that I don't think I've ever watched multiple episodes in a row of Big O because I would always catch it like either halfway through an episode or the beginning of an episode and I'd have to leave or something. And I just remember like trying to watch some of it in a row when I was a kid and getting into it because if I remember correctly, it came on after everything else on
yeah. I
Toonami.
think it was right before they started replaying everything again. So yeah, it was like one of the latest ones that they had.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I don't think I've ever seen two episodes of Big O in a row.
Neither have I, and that's the thing about most of my like anime history when I was younger is just nothing was in order. I never got to
God,
see
right?
or know when it was on. So a lot of stuff I remember like trying to get VHSs of it. I was able to see most of Dot Hack Sign when it came out because I was getting them from a Blockbuster. For anybody who remembers those,
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird to think
and,
that like
yeah,
streaming wasn't a thing. So if you
no,
wanted to watch an anime or something like that, you better be there every time it aired and watch it sequentially because if you didn't, then it was over. It was like, oh, I missed an episode. I'm never gonna see that episode unless I hunted
which
down super hardcore. I don't know if you guys like remember LimeWire or torrents or stuff like that. I mean, torrents are still a thing,
yep.
but like it's like that's the only way I would ever get full series of anything, basically.
It wasn't until LimeWire came out that I was like, okay, I can finally find all the episodes of Fooly Cooly and I'll get to know what happened in all the episodes, only to come and find out that it was the only 6 episodes that ever existed of the show. And I was like, oh, I got everything.
That's so sad. It's just like, all right, finally, we can figure out. Oh no. It is
But
interesting when a series is very short. It's like,
mm,
especially something like Fooly Cooly, where you're like, I could see more of this. Like, but
well, we've quickly learned last year that we really didn't want more Fooly Cooly. For anybody who saw progressive and alternative, it wasn't exactly the best. So maybe it was best with 6 episodes.
okay, yeah. Well, I can see that is another thing too. Like with Evangelion now coming back out, like I do wonder exactly how that's all going to go down and be received. I'm excited for it. I love me some Evangelion stuff, so it's, I don't know. It's one of those things where once that was announced, I was like, we're doing this again?
Well, yeah. Also, I'm curious to see because there's not as many like fan subbers out there as there used to be. So when it comes back over here to the state, we know it's most likely going to come here thanks to fan subbers for people who want to do that. Because I doubt they're going to release it in the U.S. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion. I don't think there's any idea for it. I watched the trailer for it. There's nothing indicating that it was going to leave Japan.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm completely. I don't know who did it or how you did it, but whatever way you managed to get that on Netflix, by the way, that was the most brilliant thing in the world. And hats off to you because that is. I was for sure thinking we'd never see anything like that coming to the States.
Yeah, that definitely felt out of nowhere for me too. Because I remember when they announced that it was coming to Netflix, I was like, of all places, Netflix got
Right.
that? And I'm like, wait, I understand Netflix is trying to get more anime right now, which is kind of interesting. If like, and Netflix is getting enough anime too nowadays that I feel like there's a lot of good anime on Netflix. I remember when anime was first coming to Netflix, I was like, I don't really want to watch any of these.
No, it definitely was really weird because it exposed people to like we saw. I'm not crapping on Devil. It's Devilman Crybaby, right? Yeah, that became like anime of the year because it streamed on Netflix, and it's a good show, but it's not a show that I would expect to like recommend to people or introduce them into anime. But that's a lot of people's first like anime thing because it was on Netflix,
Yeah.
and that's not something I would have ever expected to be like. But that's kind of, I guess, how Toonami worked for us, right? So whatever was airing on there is how we
True.
got exposed to it. So this is just how they're doing it now. So whatever weird stuff gets thrown on them there.
That's actually kind of interesting to think about because it's actually very similar to that because a lot of people who wouldn't have watched anime necessarily anyways back in the day would stay up for Toonami basically, and it would air some anime and you'd be like, okay, this is cool, this is neat. And you didn't really get a pick or choice to pick through, and Netflix did feel that way, especially in the beginning there where it was like there's not too much good anime on there. There's a ton now though, like,
Oh yeah, there's infinite amount of it on there. Not well, I wouldn't say that. I think I've seen everything on there, but I've also seen it all mostly somewhere else before I saw it on there, except for their exclusives
yeah, they're
that
exclusive.
they for some reason want to tag originals on, which
Yeah.
is still really awkward to me. That it's like that's you guys had nothing in this. You're just paid so that way nobody else could stream it right now. That's okay.
Yeah, and then Netflix is one of those places too where like I'm always afraid of the live action stuff because it's like they try to adapt anime to a live action because they're like, all right, cool, we have this anime, let's make a live action version of it. And it's like, please, Netflix, you can stop. It's okay. Like, I don't know if I've actually seen a live action anime that I enjoyed. I haven't seen a lot of them. The last one I personally watched was Death Note. I don't know if you watched the Death Note one.
That's the one that like infinitely sticks in my head.
Me too.
And just that is the first one that pops in my head anyways, even though I've watched other ones just out of pure curiosity. But I think we're going to hit a weird wall with them trying to adapt stuff as soon as they finally figure out what the heck they're doing with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because that's getting the physical adaptation, which they fired off all the writers for.
Yeah.
Or I guess
Did they
left.
left? Yeah, they left.
Yeah, they left.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the writers were like, we don't want to be known for this, so we're out, you guys. Which is pretty bad. I feel like when your writers are bailing on you, it's not a good sign for whatever you're making. But
No.
especially the original writers of the original content. But yeah, for me, I'm afraid because they're going to do a Cowboy Bebop adaptation, and that's like my heart and soul. And it's like, oh no, please, for the love of God.
Wow, I did not see that. I need to be more tied into what's about to come out because that is something that I definitely missed, and I'm almost happy that I didn't know that was happening.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna. I'm so afraid. Like everything about that anime, I'm like, I could actually see it being a good adaptation because it's pretty straightforward as far as like live action goes, if that makes sense. It's not like it's super futuristic. I mean, it is set in like the future and there's ships and all of that stuff, but it's not like there's like absolutely crazy technology or like aliens that they have to deal with, like super hardcore. A lot of it's humanoids. And
I could see it, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to see
no,
it.
that's
But
where I'm at. I just feel like it's going to be cringe. It's just going to be like very much. I really hope it's not as bad as what Death Note was, because Death Note was one of those where when I was watching it, I'm like, this hurts. Like
I mean, well, they also just turned it into a movie, so I
they
don't even think
did.
they were actually trying. So
No,
if they did something episodic, maybe they could like spend more time on it. But
true.
I guess
I think
yeah,
because I mean, if you look at The Witcher, the Witcher adaptation wasn't terrible. Like that actually was pretty
no,
good. I enjoyed that. And I think that's one of the reasons is because it's episodic and it's not them trying to cram an entire whatever it is into a small section or trying to come up with their own adaptation or story about whatever this thing was basically and then make it live action. Because for me, once you step away from the source material and you're like, we're making this live action, but it has nothing to do with what you expect it to be, that's for me is like a nail in the coffin for whatever I'm watching, because it's like I'm not interested anymore. Like I want you to make a live action version of the thing I know. Like I'd much rather that than you turn it on its head or change it or add a character or get rid of a character or whatever it might be, because it's
yeah.
like I'm used to this. Why are you changing this? Like it doesn't make sense. Like
I think that's a huge thing. I mean, that's also everybody who ever read a manga ever has a statement about
yeah,
anime
yeah,
in general.
it's so
So
true.
maybe whatever. But I think there would be some interesting dynamic in play if American companies would just pick up source material and then do it their own way first before anybody else had a chance. I wonder if that would ever be a model that actually worked.
I mean, I as a like it's I don't think it's necessarily that it's they're going against the source material, but it's like there's enough of the source material there that it feels like they're just doing it injustice. So
Right. Yeah, that's what
is
I'm
what
saying. Is
you're
like
saying
maybe if
is
they did something before an anime was even made, if they just took like a light novel or something like that and did their own adaptation of that,
yeah, I
I
think
wonder if
that would
maybe
be probably okay. I think people
yeah,
would
because then
be
nobody
more
would have association with it.
exactly, people would be more accepting of that. It's like that kind of reminds me of if there's like a book adaptation of something and you've never read the book and you're going into it and you're like, this is amazing. But I guess that's the same concept as anyone, like what you're saying with the manga to
Yeah,
anime
manga to
or
anime
like
in the first place.
even being the anime to a live action. If you have
Mhm.
some sort of like resemblance of this is what I think it should be, and then whoever is making said thing doesn't do that or changes something in a way that it's just not, it just doesn't work out basically.
Yeah, it's very rarely that anybody will even get it right in the beginning as well. Look at how manhwa has been translated over. Like we had one good series so far, and everybody's like Tower of God. It shows that this is like the new coming of like material stuff, and like everything's gonna come out of South Korea, and like we're just gonna get all this content and all these new shows and all these new titles. And then the next like five of them that came out have all been trash.
Yeah, I haven't. It's funny because that Tower of God is the only one that I watched, because I was like,
Mhm.
these other ones don't really suit my interest, other than maybe what God of High School or whatever it is.
I did not enjoy that one.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the animes that I would enjoy, because once it was described to me, there someone was basically like, this is just tournament arc after tournament arc, and I'm like, oh, like I don't mind that. That seems like right in my alley of loving shoujins, and like I
So
definitely feel like that's for me, but I don't know.
for me though, I will be one of those people that eventually will get called out for just hating on tournament arcs in general. But before a tournament arc even started in that show, I turned it off. So I didn't know that there were tournament arcs in it. I didn't
Yeah,
get that far, and I don't think the show was ever going to pull me in that far.
interesting. Yeah, I haven't started it up. It's one of those that it is on the list at some point to mull myself through and see. I just couldn't get behind it because of the animation style right off the bat. Like sometimes just that alone will turn me off to an anime where I'm like, I don't know if I want to sit through a ton of episodes of this basically, but it's interesting.
That is, yeah,
Yeah.
a hard one. Well, really quick, like the one thing I was thinking about trying to get people into something with an odd art style, like Made in Abyss or Mob Psycho 100.
Yeah.
Both of those are so polarizing on the people when I show them to somebody that I've had near impossibility of actually converting somebody into watching them.
Yeah, I was
Even
actually
even
just
anime
gonna
fans.
I was just gonna like reference Mob Psycho because it's one of the ones I'm watching currently and just about to finish up. But when I first got into that, I was like, this anime style of this is in such an interesting like fashion that I could see people being turned off literally because of this. I love it though. Like I absolutely
Oh
love
yeah.
that style because it very much reminds me of like a manga, like reading a manga basically, which I love when I get that feeling of like cool, they probably took what like frames from the manga and actually converted these into like the anime basically. And I don't know how true that is because I've never read the manga, but
Neither have I actually.
yeah, but that is definitely one that I would love to read. I mean, so far that series has been absolutely great.
Yeah, as soon as somebody gets into that show, they usually come out of it being it's one of their like top favorites. And even for me, like I have a huge list of all my favorites and all the different things, and it's very rare that something new can even squeak in like the conversation of a top 10. And then I watched season 2 of Mob Psycho 100, and I know you're there right now, so I'm not
Yeah.
spoiling anything, but it went there for me,
Oh yeah,
and I
it's
was
definitely
yeah.
the episode that I'm at. Like I'm near the end, so it's like the episode I just got to. It just ramped from like, all right, this is a good season to like, oh my god, you guys, I'm going to finish this tonight. If I didn't have to go to sleep right now, like I would have finished this tonight, basically.
Well, speaking of Mob Psycho and the fact that you're watching it, since we were talking about trying to do somewhat of like a book club type thing, that is actually going to be the first thing that we think about talking about on the show.
Yeah. So next week, our segment for the book style, like a book club or anime club, however we want to call this, we will be going over and talking about Mob Psycho 100. Most likely both seasons. So if you have time to watch all of them, first season's 12 episodes, the second one's 13. So it's not too bad.
You can binge that in a week,
You can
considering
binge.
there's
I believe in you
not much else
guys.
to do right now.
Yeah, we're all in quarantine. We got other things to watch. But yeah, that will basically be our next section next week, basically going over Mob Psycho and what we thought about it and everything. I'll be finished by then, so that'll be good. You won't have to
That's
worry about
good.
spoilers. We'll have to do some like cool little spoilers ahead. I don't know, we'll do something
Yeah,
in post, but yeah.
but it'll be the last end of the show, so everybody can come hang out with us for the first half. If you haven't seen it or you want to catch up, we'll probably even cut it as its own separate little segment too. So
Yeah.
something for you to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. That way you guys can sit through the rest of the podcast and not worry about okay, when are they going to talk about spoilers? We'll always keep it to the end of the episode basically.
Yeah, that's and also we hopefully will have some people that want to come on and talk to us about their favorite animes or possibly have suggestions from you guys of what we should watch, since I've seen just about everything, but there's probably something out there that you guys have seen that I haven't.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many animes. It's like almost absurd how many animes there are nowadays and everything that's coming out. Like I'm glad to see them doing more and more like adaptations of like Tower of God and stuff like that, where it's like webtoons and things like that, because there's so much source material for making anime. Like,
Yeah, it was interesting. There's been a large life cycle from everybody who was like thinking that it was just manga, then it went to light novels, and then yeah, now we're tipping our toes into different countries, different places, and getting different perspectives, which is something that I'm super stoked for, because as much as I love Japanese culture and Japanese stories and whatnot, there's so many different entities, creatures, or mythos that you get to see from other places now, and
that is really
it just
true.
grows the lore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you see something like that you've never even heard of, and you're like, oh wait, this is normally just from a different culture. Like this is a Korean ghost, and I never knew this was even a thing and how it worked or anything like that. But now I'm learning about it.
Yeah, I think that's a part of what got a lot of people into anime back in the day, was just seeing something that not only storylines that you've never seen before, but just characters and situations and tropes that you weren't accustomed to yet, that there wasn't any other, thing to connect to in American culture when we were young. So everything was just foreign and interesting and unique.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's something that's always interesting about anime too, and something like I'm very much an escapist, so I love putting myself into different worlds and different places, and anime is very, very good at like showing you some place that is so surreal yet feels so tangible and like you could be there, which is like probably why I love like One Piece so much currently right now, because it's one of those worlds where like, man, if I could be in that world right now, I would absolutely love it. Like, it sounds so crazy. There's so much going on. Being a normal person probably would suck, but at the same time, it would be so cool. Like,
Well, you just eat something and join in the cast.
yeah, I know, right? I mean, is there like any world that you would want to, like anime world that you would want to actually live in?
Oh man, there's definitely a few of them that I would love to go for a while, and then there's a few that I would want to say that I would want to live into, but
Well,
definitely once you're in there, like I Made in Abyss, like
I was
we're gonna
gonna
hit this
say,
topic multiple times. I want to live in that world, except for I don't want to be there at all.
it's one of those where like I love the concept of Made in Abyss. I love the lore, the world building, and everything. Even thinking about being like a cave raider
Mhm.
sounds so sweet. But
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh my god, I don't want to die, I guess is a good way to put it. But that definitely seems
well,
very like a lot of perils around every corner.
definitely. Then that would not be a good place to live. But most of my other favorite shows have been slice of life material. So honestly, that just means I want to I want to go to Japan apparently.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like
So what one of these times that's where we're going, unless we're going to a place further than the universe, and then we're off to Antarctica. So
yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many different worlds too that would be fun to be in. Like Cowboy Bebop, I'm going to go back to that one a lot, but it seems so interesting because it's like we have space travel, we can go around to all these different places and things like that, but it's not like too crazy. I just love how it feels so normal, if that makes sense, for how far in advanced of a world they are and like all the stuff that's happened.
oh yeah, I mean yeah, we're definitely going to come back to all of our favorite stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
But that is what it is. But no, there's definitely so many different unique worlds and so many unique takes on different things that I can't completely decide where I would want to go.
Yeah.
But
I mean, something that has space travel. I love space, so being up in space and being able to fly a spaceship sounds amazingly fun and awesome. But
all of my favorite space animes do not end well for the cast. So maybe that's why my brain doesn't jump there immediately.
it's just like,
Uh,
oh no, all right, maybe we don't want space. No,
no, maybe not. And
well,
then I mean I've watched a lot of Gundam in my time,
that's
so
true too. Yeah,
some have some of the better ending story arcs for people, but still doesn't usually end so well.
no, yeah. That series is one of those series too that like when I first got into anime and it was on Toonami and everything, I loved Gundam. Like I was one of the I loved building the models. I was very much into like Sandrock Gundam was my favorite. I guess I should paraphrase this to say I like Gundam Wing, which is terrible. Which is like not the one that a lot of people are like, dude, there's so much better Gundam out there than Gundam Wing, which I will agree with you. Because I've seen quite a bit of other Gundam, but Gundam Wing for me always has a special place in my heart for like I don't know, getting me into that style of anime.
Gundam Wing was actually one of the few that I still to this day never really liked and didn't watch when it was airing. Yeah, that is
It's so bad.
that's all you on that one.
There's so many bad moments in that anime, but I love it, man. It's almost
Yeah.
like a train wreck where you're like, all right, like Hero is probably one of the most unlovable characters as a protagonist there ever will be. Like
No,
he's
I'm
so
definitely a
bland in
Universal
play.
Century. Yeah, Universal Century timeline is where I'm at in Gundam.
Yeah,
I don't,
okay, yeah.
the one series outside of that I've liked was Double O, and that
Okay.
is one of the ones that a lot of people don't like. But
Yeah.
Double O was good. But I'll stick to my Universal Century for the rest of my Gundams.
Okay. Do you ever watch like G Gundam or any of those?
I did watch G Gundam.
I remember
You
G
mean the
Gundam.
Racer series where everybody is.
Oh my god, yeah, I guess, yeah. I remember when that one was coming out, and I think it was on Toonami at the time, and I was like, huh, this is interesting. It's basically the Pacific Rim of Gundam. Like, I guess Pacific Rim came out after, but
Yeah, that one was special in many different ways. But there's a lot of good Gundam series out there that I love
Yeah.
more than probably Gundam. As much as I build a ton of Gundam, watch a ton of Gundam, but things like Elreka 7 or controversial take, Darling in the Franxx
there you go.
are some of my absolute favorites.
I s-
I will say that Elreka 7 I like more, but Carolyn Franks is good, guys.
I need to watch it. Like that is like top of the list basically. I believe after Mob Psycho I'll probably start watching that next. I have such a long like list to catch up on because everyone for a while there it was just me watching basically the well-known series that were coming out like Attack on Titan or watching like Naruto for the 11th time or whatever it might have been. But yeah, now that I'm diving deeper into what there is, it's pretty crazy. It's like, man, I have a backlog to catch up on.
Yeah, there's quite a few good ones that I'll have to recommend to you over time, but
Yeah, which was how we originally came up with like the book style or like the anime style club, where basically I'll be the one catching up on a lot of these to talk about. Very few of these I feel like Jay is going to be the one catching up on. I already know like we have a couple on the list, like Food Wars. I don't think you're caught up on Food Wars, but
yeah,
I would love to force you to watch. I would love to
over.
force you to watch Food Wars just because it's like I personally love that anime. I know it's probably not everyone's favorite anime, but it's good. It's funny.
Well, I'm interested to see what new stuff that I haven't seen can pop up. But
yeah, and anyone
other than what's new, anyways.
Anyone in the comments, if you guys have any ideas or anything that you guys would like us to talk about, or basically don't think maybe we've seen, or even if we have seen it and would like us to talk about it, yeah, leave a comment down below with it. What even is your favorite anime? That might be a good one to start because a lot of people have a lot of crazy favorite animes. I mean, stuff that I've probably never even heard of.
Yeah, let us know what those are, because that's a good topic for us to get into possibly next time, is what is our favorites, and kind of explore each other's top 10 lists.
Yeah, that would be neat actually. Or like come in with like a top 10 list and basically roast each other's top 10 list. I'm probably more going to be agreeing with yours, but like I feel like my top 10 list is one of those where Jay's going to be like, and I don't know. No.
Yeah, I don't know who you are.
Which is so perfect. That's one of the reasons why like I feel like we wanted to do this podcast as well, is because our taste is on it, like overlaps, but there are so many different sections where like I definitely am more of the shonen kid. I love just a good old fashioned like, all right, this is meant to just shut your brain off and watch two kids beat themselves up. All right, like I've always loved that type of stuff.
And I'm your long form stories or slice of life do nothings.
Yeah. So perfect. Like it works so well.
Well, I guess the last question I'll have for anything is, what's your favorite Ghibli film? Because I'm not putting any of those on my list, but just to show people where I stand at, Whispers of the Heart. Yeah, that's my speed. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah, mine's obvious. I feel like it's Totoro, and it always will be Totoro. But
I figured as much.
it's one of those where like I love pretty much all of Ghibli's anime, so there's such like works of art to me. Basically, that studio has put out some amazing content.
I will say that some of them are good.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tier list. All right, well maybe we'll do that at some point. We'll just bring up the like good old tier list maker and make a tier list of Ghibli films. That actually sounds fun.
But there's no Ghibli film that is high up as an Hosoda film for me. So
yeah, I mean I can see that.
Where I'm at.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the only like person you fanboy over like the most. Which is fine.
When it comes to movies, yes.
Yeah.
That is when exactly where I'm at.
I mean, makes good content. So.
Oops. Earthquake.
Oh God, I haven't watched that one yet. I haven't watched the Earthquake anime that just came out.
Japanese Sings 2020.
Yeah, Japanese Sings 2020. Yeah, I definitely heard about it.
First 3 episodes to that show.
That's good. That's a solid run. How long is that anime? It's like 12 episodes.
I think it's like a 12 episode.
Yeah.
run.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that was when that came out. I was like, I'll save it.
It's one of those ones. Watch it when you want to watch it. Don't put it on the must-do list.
Yeah,
I'll say that much.
My backlog's so long now. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about some other interesting stuff as the time goes on.
But yeah, I definitely, as far as like Ghibli goes, just to circle back to that, like I remember. Like Totoro was the first one I ever watched, but Princess Mononoke will always have like a special place in my heart because that was when I was like, I don't know, teenager or like early teens basically, and we were watching it, and I just remember being so like, holy, like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, let alone is that anime brutal as hell. It's also very long, but it's very good.
Part of the criteria that I hired one of my old employees on for was the fact that he had a full half sleeve of Princess Mononoke.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, that is freaking badass,
That's
sir.
so cool. What was the first Ghibli film that you actually saw?
I think the first Ghibli film that I saw was either Spirited Away or My Neighbor Totoro, and I'm not sure which one, but yeah, I didn't see those until, I think until I was like either 19-ish or 20-ish, like in those around those years. It was a long time until I saw some Ghibli films, so I think I would have more nostalgia for them if I watched them younger, like you did.
Yeah. I mean, Spirited Away, I remember when that hit the States and it was coming out in theaters. That was the most I've ever seen a movie in theaters, basically, was that we went like 11 or 12 times in a row. Like, literally almost going every single night to go see Spirited Away. Just because, I don't know, I loved that anime. That anime has so much going for it. That's a fun adventure. Like, it's so whimsical. It's like a storybook. Like, the characters
No,
in that anime are pretty sweet.
I need to introduce it to my family at some point because I don't have any family members that watch even remotely any of that type of stuff. So
Yeah, I could see Ghibli films being a good, like, especially since it's a contained story. So you're not like, hey, you gotta watch like 12 episodes of this anime, or you gotta like finish this thing. It's like, yeah, just sit down for an hour, hour and a half, 3 hours if it's Princess
it's
Mononoke.
like a Disney film.
Yeah, it's like a Disney film. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Usually,
and then it can slowly corrupt my nieces and nephews.
yeah, because you will come to the dark side of anime.
Yep. I honestly don't know if my family knows that I watch anime. That might be a thing that I have to like, if they'll ever see this and be like,
That's interesting.
Jay, now I understand all the stuff that you put in your room as an adult because yeah,
that is something that is.
I definitely have hid my anime like love and interest from everybody as a kid. So it wasn't until I lived completely on my own that I was like, I'm gonna start collecting figures now.
Yeah, that is like one of the interesting things. Like in my household, I grew up like my mom was the one who got me Totoro. Like I was very much into Godzilla and like Power Rangers and things like that. And I remember she was looking for Power Rangers stuff and she found My Neighbor Totoro and she brought it home. And that was like the first time I ever saw anime or anything like that.
Lucky.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. So like I've almost always had figures or mainly plushies. Like that's what I would collect as a kid. Like I had a lot of like Pokemon plushies growing up and things like that. I still have my Pikachu like from years past. He still usually sits on my desk at work, but he's come home with me for a while now.
Socially distant from everybody there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got to stay safe. I should put a mask on him.
Pokemon was the one thing that was able to transcend the whole. I mean, because I don't think my family ever thought of it as like a anime or anything like that. It was just cartoon stuff. So they did buy me the games back on the original Game Boy when it came back, or it came out in the 90s. So that was like the one open thing that I was always about in my entire life was Pokemon, and probably why I love Pokemon as much as I do. But outside of that, I pretty much have hid the any other fandom that I've had towards it and just kind of kept that to myself.
Yeah, I do feel like Pokemon was like for a lot of people the thing that was okay as far as like anime goes in their like group and things like that. Because I don't know, I've had friends who were religious and things like that who were not allowed to watch anime, but for some reason Pokemon was okay. But I think it's because I don't know, they're adorable little creatures that aren't like, it's not too out there. I think a lot of people have a very corrupt thinking of what anime is basically, and just go straight for like, oh, this shit's just like thick thighs and very large tits. So you're not allowed to watch this.
Well, I mean, I think that's how we circle all the way back to how this episode started. Like we were talking about our friends group, that how we met. It was through Pokemon. Like it's the kind of like giant connector that brings so many people together.
It's true. Yeah.
yeah, it's always there.
I definitely think there's a lot of people who love Pokemon, yet, yeah, don't necessarily love anime. Because, yeah, clearly, like, in our friend group and things like that, I mean, that's how we met, yeah. Was
Yep.
through Pokemon Go
It
and people
transcends everything.
loving Pokemon. It's why Pokemon is the largest franchise ever, because it's just everyone can love
Yep.
it. Like, it's kind
Doesn't
of,
matter who you are.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of interesting. Who knew that adorable little monsters people would all of a sudden just like get obsessed with? Pokemon's an interesting one too, because like there's other series that tried to do similar things to Pokemon. Like Digimon instantly comes to mind.
Hey, Digimon is definitely its own thing. I don't think they're
No, it
trying to be
is. No,
Pokemon.
I'm not
They
saying
were
that.
amazing.
I'm not saying it. I mean, it's weird because they came out
Oh, fight
around
you all on this one.
they came around at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Digimon, most people like it did not grow as quickly as Pokemon did.
It's because Digimon had a better story and everybody wanted to do them.
No, it's because everyone relates to Ash because Ash just doesn't know what the hell he's doing with his life.
That's fair.
I feel like everyone looks at Ash and they're like, I could probably be a better Pokemon trainer than you.
Yeah, forget about this growing up and like growing as a character thing that Digimon had going for it.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Digimon was an interesting series for me because I remember watching it as like basically back to back with Pokemon and enjoying both of them just as much as each other. The Digimon games were not nearly as good as Pokemon, so I'm pretty sure that's why the mass just didn't pick up. If they had like a similar thing to what Pokemon had, because I mean,
Pokemon had the better games, better card games, better everything.
yeah, because it's kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, probably talking just randomly here, but a lot of people know the games and probably never watched the anime. Like, and I know people play the games completely. Like, I still play the games, but I haven't been caught up with the anime for years now. Like,
oh yeah, I have no idea what's going on with any Pokemon things outside of the games.
yeah,
That is for sure.
yeah, exactly. Like, I know they changed the art style. Like, I remember seeing some stuff recently, and I was like, oh wow, all right.
I know Ash is still 10 years old somehow.
I know.
That is...
Dude, that's so crazy.
See, with Digimon, they let them all
different.
grow up.
They did actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they grow up like completely in the movie too? Like,
yeah, they're all
like
become
adult,
like high,
or well,
like yeah,
they're like
in college.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're just outside of that teenage range, basically. Which in anime is like you're an old geezer at that point, basically.
Oh yeah.
It's always interesting to me to think that like whenever you're like I'm watching a new anime or stuff like that, and I'm like, all right, cool. How old are you? And then they talk about it and you're like, Jesus Christ. Like I remember I was watching Naruto, and then you finally realize Naruto's like 9 or 10, maybe 11. I can't actually remember his exact age. And you're like, you're a full-fledged ninja that's out there like murdering people. Like, you realize you're throwing kids as soldiers out here into this world. Like, this is crazy. Like Shippuden, he's like 16 and he's already like gone through so much craziness. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's always crazy.
Different. Yeah. Definitely not meant for our age groups, or we weren't doing that when we were that young.
We weren't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't picture myself at the age of 11 like throwing shurikens going off on ninja missions. I would have liked to. I know that.
Oh yeah,
would have been sweet.
But definitely not the discipline. I was arguing with my teachers.
Yeah, you were just getting thrown out, being like straight Naruto. I mean, that's like where he was though. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where like in anime and things like that, I'm always surprised at whenever I find the age of a character. And I love how almost everything, it's almost like middle school to like the end of high school is basically where the majority of like animes that I've watched, your main characters end up in there. Like, I'm trying to think the last anime that I watched where they were older, which was probably Steins Gate.
Steins Gate, yeah, is a great one. No, I've definitely seen a lot more recent ones, but I can't remember the title of them. Like the one where the grandpa gets turned into a mech.
Interesting. I don't think I've even... That sounds sweet.
It was really sweet until the CGI took over and made it crash.
Oh, God.
But the story's really cool and the manga's dope.
Okay.
if somebody can tell me what the name of that one is in the comments or something like that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, maybe we'll if we're lucky, we'll throw it in post. There'll be a picture of it.
Yeah, something like that. And then
Dude, that sounds
so there are definitely those titles out there, but
yeah, but yeah, the majority of
don't
stuff
think
that
my
I
head.
watch is definitely younger.
Bakano.
Okay, yeah,
That's another really good one. If anybody hasn't ever seen Bakano, 100% go watch that one.
yeah. I definitely am trying to think of more. Like, there's
There's a part of me that just wants to turn around and look at all my manga that I have behind me and be like, that one.
that's just probably true. Yeah.
That's where I was thinking about Bakano. It's just like, if I turn slightly to my left, it's something in reach I can grab.
Yeah, for me, I'm like racking my brain. I'm like, I know Cowboy Bebop because that's definitely they're older in that one. But I'm trying to think, man. There's not a lot of characters that fall into this for me. At least.
Well,
Like,
you watch a lot of
especially-
shonen.
Especially recently. Well, yeah, it's true. Like, and it's funny to think that a lot of shonen, the majority of them, like now that I'm thinking about it, like especially I've been watching a shit ton of One Piece right now. How old is Zoro? What the hell? Why is he hanging out with Luffy? Why am I thinking about this now out of nowhere?
I
But it's
think we've gone too far.
I think so too. We're now at the point where I'm like, I don't even know. That's something that's interesting too. You're like, why is this dude hanging out with this young kid right here? What the hell is going on here, you guys?
And now we get into the topic of why anime was banned in Australia.
Yeah, dude. I haven't even looked into that yet, but I heard about that. I was like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, you can't have this.
No, that's well.
That's why VPNs
That's an
exist.
interesting topic to
That's why we got to
into
get a
at some point.
VPN sponsor. No,
Yeah, that's how we know we've made it, right?
yeah. Once we get our VPN sponsor. Oh man, that'll be legit. I'm down.
Yeah.
Any VPN companies that see this, no.
We'll take the first one because you're all kind of the same. And that's how we don't get one. Yeah.
What have you done? No.
Throwing us right under the bus
Oh
from the
no,
beginning.
that's so good. Oh man,
No, I mean, totally. X-Brain, you're amazing. You do so much more than anybody else.
I was gonna
And,
say Nord, so I mean, just throwing that out there, Nord.
I think well, yeah, we'll just leave it at that one because I was about to just throw out the one that I use and just no. I use the one that is sponsored.
That's so
Right,
funny.
we've definitely gone too far.
It's so good. So what was like the last anime figures that you got?
Figures that I got.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an easy one. I immediately went out after I read the manga and knew that the movie was coming out. I went out and grabbed a Rico, a Nanachi, and a Regu, Nindoroid that I have right here on my right.
Yeah,
Like,
the
those are
Nanachi
the
one
three
looks
figures I
so
got.
good. Like,
Oh, it is just spoilers for people who haven't seen the show because it's got the amazing little spoilers on next to it. But yeah, it's
so
like
good though,
one of my favorite figures I've gotten in a long time.
man.
Like, I love these type of figures, but a lot of people don't like the chibi ones. But that's the best thing about the Made in Abyss ones is that's the way they look.
Yeah, no,
So-
I was gonna say it actually suits them very, very well. Because I agree. I actually Nindroids are one of the ones that a lot of the times I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they actually are very high quality. They are good. But I might have to pick up the Nanachi one. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Yeah, it's adorable. And
It's
the hat comes
absolutely
off,
adorable.
It looks super good. Yeah.
Yeah. My most recent ones I got that are totally knockoffs, but they're just beautiful. But I got the One Piece SpongeBob characters, which
Ooh.
it was like I don't know if I can grab them easily
Was this the thing that I saw you post on your
on
your
Instagram. Yeah.
or Instagram? Yeah.
Oh God, he's not going to show up in the light very well.
Just the
It's just so
overcast
yellow.
light.
Oh God. Oh God.
No.
But yeah, he's beautiful.
Well, I mean, if people want to see what those figures look like and see what they look like, what's your handle?
You can find me on all social medias at Savage Bear TV. So pretty straightforward.
Yeah. See,
But,
perfect little intro for you there. And I'm Jay Lewis. I think it's Inc. on my social medias.
You're like, what is it?
It doesn't really matter. We'll post them down in the bottom if you
Yeah,
guys
they'll
want to
be
come.
they'll be in the
That's some
comments
good
if you
stuff
want to
there as
check.
well.
Yeah, if you want to check out any of our stuff. But yeah, I definitely think that's probably a good place to wrap all of this up for our first episode. So if you guys
Yeah.
are interested in what's going on, don't forget to subscribe to us. Check it out. We'll be posting these fairly consistently. Hopefully, once we pick out a date that they'll come out on that date every week. So just check it out.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining us for our very first one. I know it was a little bit more awkward, and hopefully as we go on, we get a lot more streamlined with everything. But
Yeah,
hey,
I mean,
thank you guys for joining and watching.
I definitely feel like it's one of those things where if you want to just chill with us and watch us grow, this is a good time to hop in. And yeah, we'll be here putting out this same style of content, but getting better with it slowly but surely. Hopefully, as we were mentioning before, we'll evolve into an actual in-person podcast, which will be sweet. We'll also be bringing on guests, hopefully. We don't know when, and we don't know who, but I would love to bring on some people. So if you guys have suggestions of people, reach out to them. All right, tell them about us. No.
Yeah, and look forward to all that fun stuff, and chat with us down below, guys, because that's one thing that we started this for, is we want to talk about everything that we collect, everything that we watch. So if you guys just want to talk about any topics down below, or hit us up at our social medias, we are definitely here to chat.
Yep, we're down to hang out. Yeah, and as Jay mentioned before, Jay streams. What times are you normally on?
Twitch/J Lewis. I don't know if that's how that thing completely works. I'm on every Monday through Thursday at 8 o'clock. Come watch me draw, talk, and listen to anime music. So, I mean, I'm always there to chill.
Yeah, pretty consistent too. For me, I am on basically weekdays starting at 5 p.m. You can find me at Savage Bear TV, twitch.tv/Savage Bear TV. And expect horror content. We'll be playing a lot of horror games, be talking anime, yeah, all that good stuff. So if you guys want to hop on in, hang out, that's where we'll be during the intermediate times before the next podcast drops.
Yeah. Take it easy, guys.
Yep. Take care, you guys.